Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Post Credits Podcast. Today we're talking about the 2000th Godzilla movie.
Yeah,
It's
2000. It's not, but it is a high number up there.
it,
It's got I don't know for sure, but it's got to be in like the 30s at that point, right? Like if for Godzilla 2000, I don't know.
I think Final Wars might have been number 31.
Okay. Close enough for government work, you
Yeah.
know.
And we're way past that. We've hit that state line and just crossed that on a rocket ship.
Oh yeah.
There's so many Godzilla movies, but this is the first one of the so-called Millennial series. I like the series. I know you like the series.
This I love this. It's not even like I love this series, this Millennium series, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've watched most of them in the series. There's 6 of them. There's only one that I thought was so silly that I didn't finish it. And that's I don't even remember it's like Godzilla versus Megaguirus or something. Megaguirus. I don't know.
Okay.
It's the one where they make a black hole to suck Godzilla into, but it creates an interdimensional door, and then these insects come in to the world.
As
You remember that one?
as one does. No,
Yeah,
when
as
you
one
said
does.
when you said there's 6 of them, I'm thinking like, wait a minute, which one did I miss? I think that's the one that I'm missing, because that's between that one and then Mechagodzilla, Tokyo SOS,
Yes.
Final Wars.
Yeah, there's one in there that everyone says is garbage, and I think the consensus is everyone says 5 because this one is so bad that everyone forgets about it. They just like we're just erasing it. But there are 6 in the Millennium series, but everyone always says 5, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Every time.
That explains it.
But on the flip side, Godzilla, I think, is one of my favorites, even though I think Final Wars is my creme de la creme of this series.
It's so
bonkers
and crazy. Yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah, everything. It's it's not even like a ironically like it. It's just there's so much like everything under the kitchen sink is in that movie. So it's just so entertaining throughout the whole thing. But this feels like a straight up Godzilla movie, which I also like a lot.
Yeah.
It's just on the nose, but how they evolve the story is pretty awesome. So,
well, I think that's a great place to put a pin in that. Let's hit some news and then we'll jump right back into this. So Disney Plus is apparently actively developing an Indiana Jones TV series.
Just delete me from this conversation. Why?
It could work. I don't remember. Like, I wasn't watching it when it was on the air, but I remember hearing a lot of good things about the Young Indiana Jones series in the 90s.
Yeah.
So it's not the only time that someone else has played Indiana Jones. So depending on how they do it, it could be okay. I just think that they're trying to do something else with the IP to keep it relevant, especially with Harrison Ford hanging up the hat after this new movie.
Is he? No, I mean, like, it just seemed like that's what was happening after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and to hear it again, it's like, are you? Okay, Kiss, I see what you're doing here. This is my last time out. I'll be back again in 10 years. He was 90-year-old.
He was pretty forceful about it at the.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, I think they showed footage at the D23 or whatever that Disney thing was.
Yeah,
and he's up there with a microphone, being all Harrison Ford, like, I will not fall down for you people again. But he seemed like genuinely, like, as grumpy as he normally comes across, he seemed genuinely humbled by the experience of coming back for this last one and like the direction of it. So I don't
All
know.
right.
I'm hopeful for that movie because Mads Mikkelsen's in there. I like him a lot. You know, it seems like they're borrowing a lot of like Marvel, Star Wars people because Disney and slamming it all together. But I mean, at this point, every great actor who's living has basically had a Marvel franchise or has been in a Star Wars movie at this point. So it just makes sense. I still haven't watched, what is it, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Did you actually see that?
Oh yes. Oh yeah, I saw that. I went to see it opening day. And I wish I didn't see it at all, to be quite honest. Here's the thing, like Indiana Jones for me, it's like there was a time when there wasn't the third one yet for me. You know, there was Indiana Jones, or no, it wasn't even Indiana Jones. There was Raiders of the Lost Ark, which for the longest time everyone just called that Raiders, and Indiana Jones was the second and third movie, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones and this. But now it's like retcon, so it's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's just it gets to a point where it's like to me those first three movies are fantastic. The second one's not as good, but there's still so many moments. Especially when they get past the offensive animal eating, bug eating thing in the beginning that has aged like milk, to be honest with you. Once you get past that, it's an awesome adventure. But Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, man, that was the it was on the same level as like Revenge of the Sith. So it just kind of
it came as part of the Blu-ray set that I have, and I haven't been desperate enough for entertainment to watch it.
Well, I bought it in 4K.
I know everything about it because it's
okay.
been spoiled for me, and I don't care. I'm just hoping enough time has passed that when I do get around to watch it, I'll be able to be objective about it. The only reason I bring it up is because, like you said, they tried to pass the torch in that one, and I think they decided to go separate ways from Shia LaBeouf. So all that world building they did is just like, no, we can't continue in this manner.
Yeah,
and I think
okay. Go ahead.
Well, I
have something to say, but I'll say it later.
Yeah, I was just going to say for this new one, I think it's a good idea to kind of step away from Spielberg.
Yes.
You know, it's nothing against him as a filmmaker. I just feel like he made 3 of those and left it all out on the court. And
yes,
I know he really feels great ownership of the character in the series. I can respect and appreciate that. But I also think creatively, at a certain point, you also have to be honest with yourself and be like, you know what? I've said everything I wanted to say with this, and by hanging on, you're kind of doing it a disservice. And hopefully, this new director will be able to rekindle some of that magic.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? But you know what? If we love it, everyone's gonna hate it. Because that's how things are going right now, you know. I feel like we're stepping into contrarian beliefs by accident. But what I want to say is another reason, and I remember it more than everything that happened in the movie that I didn't like, was Shia LaBeouf at some MTV Movie Award got to say the new name of the Indiana Jones movie, and he was like, "And the new name," and he paused for like a long time. He had this dumbass shit-eating grin on his face, like, I'm so cool because I get to name the new tell the name of the new Indiana Jones movie. And it had the same energy as Hayden Christensen in Return of the Jedi. So I always put those two events happening, together. So there you go.
I just had to look at the camera and smile because that's what I think of when I think of Hayden Christensen in Return of the Jedi. Like, I'm in this movie and you can't stop me, so aren't we calling attention to this?
Yeah.
I don't think he's even looking at the camera. It's just like he's got one of those glances where you can't tell where he's looking, and it's just
he looks straight ahead and then he looks down and then he looks straight ahead again. And it's just like, yeah, shut you're not even saying anything, but just shut up. So, anyways, Indiana Jones new series,
Yep.
On Disney Plus.
In
I'll be
development.
looking forward to that.
In development.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yep. That sounds great. I don't know, man. I'm conflicted because it's like when I think of like one of these awesome movie series going over to Disney Plus to become a series, I'm kind of thinking like what's happening with Marvel and Star Wars, where it's like my initial thought was like, wow, that's awesome to have a show based on these characters. And guess what's happened? The reverse has happened for me. That there's so much content that I don't want to watch it all because it's too much. It's too much of a time investment. So that's where I get a little worried, is like, oh man, like how much are they going to milk Indiana Jones? Are we going to get a series based on his father as a young kid?
You'll have
Are we
young
going to get
Sala.
young Miriam, like where are they going to go? Or like their offspring, I don't know. It just makes me worried that that's what it's going to be. So I'm a little standoffish towards it,
Yeah.
So because it's like I feel like they're grasping at straws with Star Wars and Andor. It's like I don't know.
Oh, and
You
that's
just
like
made
one of the better series
that's what
they've
people
done.
are saying.
Yeah.
But it's like characters I don't give a shit about because they were from Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which was one of the better of the new movies too. You didn't like it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I liked it when I saw it in the theater, but then the musical score is so atrocious, I can't get past it anymore. So, anyways, tangent over. I guess we should talk about a movie, I guess.
Let's segue back to that.
Yeah.
So the 2000th Godzilla movie really isn't. It came out in 99 in Japan.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy is like, I mean, it's not crazy, but like all through the original series, and then once they had their break, they had that Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie in 98, and then this was like right there in 99, and then it was like one a year. And I'm just like, wow, like, this is the Fast and the Furious of monster franchises. Because you had 18 years practically unbroken, it seems like, where it's like one a year, one a year, one a year, one a year. And then they took their little break and kind of came back strong with this reboot.
Yeah. It is the Fast and the Furious. It's probably better though. Better than the Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, arguably. Maybe even not that. I don't think it is an argument. Fast and the Furious is just weird. This is there's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, like I want to know more about like the Godzilla movies before Millennium, but I have not gone that far back yet. Like for me it was like, oh, this American Godzilla shit's cool. Maybe I should go back to the other stuff. And so it was like I just picked an era and I landed on Millennium era, which seemed to be like a lot of what people have responded to was this era of Godzilla. But yeah, I do want to go back and watch the others at some point. God, there's so many of them. There's so many.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think you made the right call, because I feel like those older ones are kind of hard to watch because they're a lot more traditional. Like even this one, if Final Wars was the first one you started with, you're just like, oh my god, like if they're all like this, like my head's just gonna blow up. But this one's a lot more traditional, where it's people trying to work the Godzilla problem, and you kind of got like red tape running up against, these environmentalists.
Well, the truth of the matter is I shouldn't have liked Godzilla Final Wars, because it's just like that's how I'm wetting my whistle, is going to like the most batshit crazy one, where it was like I should have started with Godzilla 2000. But the thing that I realized is that this is actually the perfect movie for a non-Godzilla fan to get involved with Godzilla. Because it treats it like this is the first time that Japan has seen Godzilla. Like this is the first time that Godzilla has made landfall. So you don't need to know like the backstory of
You don't.
Godzilla.
Yeah, I mean, they do a good job of walking you into the concept if you're unfamiliar with it. But I don't necessarily agree that, because like right off the bat they know what Godzilla is, because there's that group. They're almost like the Storm Chasers and Twisters, driving around, but instead of looking for hurricanes, they're looking for Godzilla. And the way that I had always interpreted this, and I think it's a popular interpretation, is that this doesn't necessarily reboot the canon. So there was the original Godzilla, and then Son of Godzilla grew up to become the Millennial Godzilla.
Oh.
And I think that
I didn't know that or didn't perceive that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they even canonized that in Godzilla X Mechagodzilla, because they build the fucking cyborg on the bones of the original Godzilla, and that's why it's pissed off, and basically the ghost in the machine comes back to life and wreaks havoc. Did that just blow your mind?
No, I'm just forgetting certain things. So, because my perception was that maybe that's something that they did with that, not this movie, but the Mechagodzilla movie. But I don't know if I don't remember them saying that this is the son of Godzilla, or that they knew what Godzilla was.
Well, they don't. Yeah, they don't. Well, I mean, it starts off and they're, oh God, what's the name of them? There's a name for them too.
Well, yeah, there's those chasers. It's like the mom, maybe mom and dad, and then the little girl. And I think they use the term Godzilla.
Yeah, but then Godzilla Prediction Network.
Yes, but I don't think like the population of Japan knew what Godzilla was. That's what I mean. Like they might have known, because they're like conspiracy theorists or whatever that are trying to prove it to be true, and they're chasing it. But I don't think that people knew what Godzilla was. That's my perception, at least. That the rest of the population didn't know.
I think it's open for interpretation. They definitely don't say in this movie that it was baby Godzilla grew up to be that. That's right. Me putting the pieces together, especially in the broader context of the Millennial series.
Sure.
I feel like Godzilla came, wrecked some shit, and then went away, and time had passed and things had settled and people had forgotten about it. Kind of like in Freddy vs. Jason, where Freddy's been gone for so long that people have kind of moved on, and then he comes back and catches him sideways. That's how I feel that the inroads to this Godzilla is here.
I think I might be getting some openings confused then for the Godzilla. Because there's always something where it's like they kind of show other Godzilla movies, so maybe, yeah. That also sounds familiar, that like they had forgotten Godzilla, but then some people knew Godzilla was around. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I feel like it's still palatable as an introduction to Godzilla, regardless if the fact that it's baby Godzilla grown up to be an adult, or if this is just a reboot starting from scratch at this Godzilla. You know?
Yeah. And that, again, a lot of this is just kind of like, as the series goes on, it kind of adds a little bit more. This was definitely more of a reboot, but it was a modern one.
You mean like the reboot where they call it a reboot, but then bring back legacy characters? Like that type of reboot? I mean, there's another word for that, and it's just called a sequel.
Yeah, right.
We have a term for that already.
This might have started that obnoxious trend of taking the original title and then...
Yeah. It's a reboot with our legacy characters.
Just putting a year after. It's a rebox officing.
Yeah. God. A side tangent, real quick. I I hate that. I hate those two terms, reboot and then like legacy characters, or like soft reboot. I really hate those terms. You know, it's just a sequel. If you want to reboot it, don't have Chevy Chase in the Vacation movie. You know, that's a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, because they made a Vacation movie, and I'm only bringing this up now because it's so out of left field. But there's a channel that I follow on YouTube, and they talk about like abandoned franchises.
Okay.
And one of them was like Vacation, and I totally forgot about the reboot that happened with the guy from The Office. What's his name?
I know who you're
Andy.
talking about. Yeah, he was in all
Yeah.
the Hangover movies and.
Yeah. But then Chevy Chase is still in it. Okay. So you know what that is, right? It's a fucking sequel. Let's stop calling it something else to try to be like, hey, we're making it different.
So he was the Clark Griswold character in that?
He was no, he was Rusty. He was adult Rusty. And Chevy Chase was still Clark.
No, that's what I asked. Yeah, he was he was still Clark Griswold.
It sounded, yeah, Chevy Chase was still Clark,
okay.
But it sounded like you were asking if Andy from The Office was now Clark.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, that's a sequel.
Exactly. But it's got legacy characters in it, Brian.
So where does Creed fall into that equation for you? Because you've got legacy characters in that, but it's centered around.
Well, they never said it was a reboot. They did it correctly. They're saying we're taking Creed, the son of Creed, and we're making a new series based off that.
Okay.
There was some dumb retconning in there, but hey, it worked for the most part. I enjoyed Creed. Creed 2 was fine. I don't know about Creed 3. It's coming, though. I saw a trailer for it. It's on its way.
All right. So back to Godzilla. So it's basically a reboot in the sense where, like, it starts out very traditional. There's Godzilla, the military's after him. But then there's this kind of new wrinkle where there's like an alien threat.
Yeah. Before we talk about that, I do want to talk about like the opening and like seeing Godzilla for the first time. Now, to me, it felt like really intimidating, you know, because it was like, instead they did like they gave you the shots to show you scale, and then they'd show you like the eyeball and then like the teeth of Godzilla, or like Godzilla's scales coming up out of the water, and then you just see people staring at it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get this like, it's kind of, it was intimidating, and I don't want to say scary. That's why I'm using the word intimidating, because it's like you get this feeling of how big Godzilla is, and then just from surface level knowledge of other Godzilla movies, you know where this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's really, it's kind of exhilarating to be able to see that again, instead of like, oh, Godzilla's here, is just throwing shit around and fuck this building and that one over there and fuck this thing too, you know. And to have that build up, I think, was great. That's why I liked this movie, because of how they introduced the story and how they got it going. I was like, yes, mm-hmm. I'll have more of this, you know. But
yeah,
the ship almost cost me the price of admission, and I wanted to leave. The alien ship that was in it was like
pretty bad looking.
Pretty bad. Yeah, and it's like, first it was like, I thought it was just like a floating rock, and then it busted off all that stuff, and then it's like all shimmery and shiny, and it's got a cannon on it, and it's just floating there. Yeah, and it's like, okay, you had me with the badass Godzilla opening, and now we're at this weird looking ship.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about badass Godzilla for a minute, because for me, I really like the sculpt of this suit, because it,
mm-hmm.
like, there's nothing friendly looking about it. He's still kind of, you know, this chubby T-Rex kind of I don't know. He's so weirdly proportioned where you shouldn't take him seriously, but you do because there's like just enough like scariness to it with like the claws and
Yeah.
the teeth and the I don't know roofing spackle on his back or whatever the the dorsal fins are. It all looks really cool, and especially after like seeing some of those other ones where I don't know, like Godzilla, it looks like he's smiling and he's got like the big kind of like googly Cookie Monster eyes. You don't have that here. Like I think it was kind of like trying to split the difference between what they were trying to do with the Matthew Broderick one, where it's like let's make it look a little more realistic, but let's actually maintain the what makes it Godzilla, which that one
Yes.
really didn't do.
Yeah,
Aside
they wanted
from,
to make a giant T-Rex for the
mm-hmm,
Matthew Broderick one,
mm-hmm.
which is still like a quarter the size of real Godzilla, but bigger than a T-Rex. Bigger, more scary than a T-Rex because of Jurassic Park. That's really what happened.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
no, I agree with you. It was like it was a cool looking design.
Which kind of makes it a little strange to me, only in the sense that if the idea was to go anti CG, they've got some really bad CG in here. Because, like, there's that shot where Godzilla's swimming, which looks terrible.
Yeah, that's bad.
Just
Yeah.
terrible. And then, like you said, with the spaceship.
Well, when there's like the jellyfish, because there's a part towards the latter half of the movie, like the last third, where the ship is transforming,
Mm-hmm.
and then it turns into like some jellyfish looking fucking thing. It's just like floating in the sky, and it's like that's all CG, and it looks terrible. There were that was one of the moments where I'm like, please don't get any worse than this, or else I'm not gonna be on board with Godzilla.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I'll give him credit for is that like the motion tracking was really cool because there's a shot where the spaceship's on top of I don't know like whatever that building is that they decide they're gonna hit the Resident Evil self destruct code and try and explode that to kill the aliens or something.
Yeah,
There's like a shot where they like a helicopter shot where like they pan all around it, and they did a good job because it doesn't, even though the CG's not convincing, it doesn't look like it's just kind of floating on top of the frame. So for the time, I don't know how they did that because they definitely don't have like the 3D camera solving tools that we have now that are just built into Adobe After Effects. Um, so I give that a lot of credit, especially if someone had to like hand track that and match that by eye. Like hats
oh
off to
my
you.
god,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, no, like the materials just didn't look photorealistic at all, and the design of it was just kind of like there was nothing. I don't know. It wasn't a great design, but then you have that new monster that comes out of it. It's got some name. I don't know what the name is, but that was a
Isn't
new
this
monster
the
created for this movie.
when it morphs into the final monster?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was King Ghidorah
Now that's the three-headed thing with the wings.
at the end of it,
King Ghidorah is like the three-headed like dragon that's got the wings.
but at the end of this one, because doesn't this one have three heads?
No, it's trying to eat Godzilla. It's like this big, like almost crustacean looking thing, and we come to find out that the reason the alien's there is because it's kind of like the thing, but it's trying to absorb Godzilla DNA to become like alien mutant Godzilla. That's that's basically what the alien winds up wanting, and that's why it's fighting Godzilla. But then because Godzilla is this protector of the environment, and that's really an area that this separates from the original movies because Godzilla was a bad guy,
Yeah,
and
now he's a protector.
yeah,
Yeah,
these movies make him out to be more of just kind of this angry spirit of nature.
I thought it was this one. And I'll just tell you what I'm thinking. And it might not be this one. So my apologies. But this one Godzilla movie that I'm thinking of, which I thought was this one, and even though I watched this week again, now I'm confusing it all together. That there was a sequence that this one three-headed, or this one monster, it was more humanoid, bit Godzilla and started sucking out its energy, Godzilla's energy from him. And then it became powerful, and then the head split, and then there were three heads.
That's Final Wars.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, because that was Monster X.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
There it is, folks. Credibility blown. No, it's fine. I mean, they do kind of blend together. If and this might sound like sacrilege, but I feel like Godzilla movies are kind of meant to fast forward through and just watch the monster fighting. Especially those older ones, because it's people talking. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna send the military after him. Like, oh, again. Like, even in this movie, like, they kind of have to do it because it's jury duty, like, Godzilla comes, all right, military, you got to get out there, man, do your job, protect and serve, semper fidelis, whatever they say in Japan. But I thought it was hilarious in this one where, like, Godzilla's like stomping towards the shoreline and they're attacking them with their American-made Top Gun F-16s, shooting him in the crotch with missiles. Like, like I'm not even making that up. They're shooting him right in the crotch with missiles. Like, guys, this is what's pissing him off. Like,
yeah,
if he wasn't pissed already. Yeah.
I think anyone would be mad.
Take it. Shoot him around the groin and belly. That'll
stop him. That won't make him angry at all. Yeah, no wonder he's attacking the mainland all the time.
Yeah.
Oh no, there goes Tokyo. Yeah, why? Because you shot him in the balls. Stop doing that.
Fully justified. Not a court in the land would convict him.
Nope. I wouldn't. Free pass. Get out of jail free.
Yeah.
We did the wrong thing. We shot your reproductive organs off.
Yeah, but back to the monster of this movie. It was it's like some like DNA absorbing thing, because it like opens its mouth and it's so big that it tries to actually
swallow
eat him like a snake.
Now I'm remembering. Yeah.
Big mistake, because you see those scales light up on the back and blow it apart. And I think this series was the first to do that, where the scales kind of represented kind of like the visual powering up of the atomic breath. Yes.
The sounds, though, I think they were in this one, like that baseful undulating sound, that sound great in the American made Godzilla movies, when that thing's powering up. That's awesome. By the way, have you watched King of the Monsters yet?
I don't remember. I know I fell asleep during one of them, and then I woke up, and then there was just monsters fighting. I should rewatch it, because I watched versus King Kong, and then that's the one in between, because there's Godzilla, King of Monsters.
King of the Monsters is the second one, and then there's Godzilla versus Kong is the third Godzilla or second King Kong movie.
Yeah, so it was the second one that I fell asleep during, because The Last Samurai goes down with his nuclear bomb, or what? No, he doesn't have a nuclear bomb. He goes down to wake up Godzilla.
Ken Watanabe.
Yeah, The Last Samurai.
The Last Samurai.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I said.
They jumpstart Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when all hell breaks loose. That's when shit gets like, I mean, it was awesome up until that moment, but when Godzilla becomes like super powered because of the atomic blast that they just ignited up his nostril, then uh shit gets out of this world. It's so cool. Do me a favor and do yourself a favor. Watch that movie because it is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
But American Godzilla fans don't know what they want. Because they said at the first Godzilla, they're like, there's not enough Godzilla. So much story. Which I like the first Godzilla. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
And then I was blown away by the second one. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And people are like, there's not enough story.
This is why you don't make things for fans, because they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I really like the first American Godzilla. Once again, like I'm a newbie to all this shit, so it's like my first Godzilla movie was the Matthew Broderick shit. That was like the very first one that I saw. So if it wasn't for the American Godzilla movies, the one with Bryan Cranston, I would not have watched anything else. So, just like it's because of those movies that was like, okay, all right, I'll go and watch the Japanese ones now, but probably specifically because of King of the Monsters. That shit's dope. But yeah.
I feel like that series, which what's the company that makes those?
Legendary.
Oh, yeah, okay. I feel like the Legendary series is kind of following in the footsteps of the Millennial series, because it started out relatively grounded.
Yeah.
And it's just getting so crazy that next one that comes out is probably going to be like Final Wars level of but American, because we know how to make shit look cool.
Yeah, we're really good at that. We're bad at ideas, but really good at making shit look cool.
The execution, yeah.
Yeah. We got the eye candy down, just not the story beats. Insert any amount of blockbuster that you just saw or Halloween Ends in there, any third movie. Actually, that's it. We can't end a trilogy. We don't know how to do that yet. We'll figure it out someday.
The Hollow Green trilogy. That's what I'm going to start calling that.
The Hollow Green.
Yeah, you get it now because David Gordon.
Yeah, I know.
We got it without the subtitles, Brian. Shut up over there.
But yeah, going back to this one. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where it's like, this is awesome. I don't know if I'm gonna watch like all the other Godzilla movies ever made, but god damn, this series is great.
I would say, look up a list of 10 best Godzilla movies and just pick out of there. Because there's
like 6 of them are this. Well, 5, because we only remember 5. Remember, we only remember 5 of them. These 5 seem to be always in the top. So, except there's like Godzilla versus Biollante.
Oh yeah, I think you almost got it. I think you almost nailed it, like Biollante or whatever.
Okay, and that was the last movie before the Millennium era, and apparently people say that one's pretty up there too. So,
where does Shin Godzilla fit in? Is that part of its own series?
That was going to be, but they're not going to do anything with it anymore, unfortunately. So I think we covered it on the last Godzilla we did, one of the episodes, but the Millennium series was like the last heyday of Toho making consistent Godzilla movies, and they were bored with them. They'd already made 2,000 movies, or 1,999 movies, and that's why Legendary was able to snag the rights from Toho for the American versions, was because they weren't really doing anything with it. And the thing was is like, because of the popularity of the American Godzillas, the legendary ones, Toho reconsidered, and then that's how Shin Godzilla got made. But they didn't want to compete. It's kind of interesting. Godzilla didn't want to compete with Godzilla, so they were like releasing them staggered. So it'd be like, oh, here's the American version, and then like a year or two later, like Shin Godzilla came out, and there was supposed to be a sequel, but that's just dead in the water. But um Toho's moving forward with going back to their like yearly or every other year Godzilla movie schedule again, starting in late 2023. So I'm excited.
Okay. Well, I mean, that makes perfect sense that you wouldn't want to, especially, you wouldn't want to compete directly, especially because these movies get a worldwide release.
Right, right.
Whereas the Japanese ones do not. So why would you dilute your own market if these movies are coming there anyway?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean it's perfect business sense. So apparently, and at the time, and I think things have like been renegotiated, because King of the Monsters and Godzilla versus Kong did so well in the United States that I think Legendary has renegotiated or got the rights to do more kaiju Godzilla universe monsters. So like I saw logos for like Mothra and like other King Ghidorah, other monsters versus Godzilla Americanized logos, you know.
Okay.
So it seems like instead of it kind of ending with another one, it seems like it's just kind of going to be ongoing. Like it's just whenever we decide to make another one is when we're going to do it. But it seems like at least the American movies are going to keep going. I don't know what their ridiculous, if they would be able to do the ridiculous release schedule that Japan's going to do, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's going to be
that's
more.
just not how Hollywood works. We're on
Right.
like every
3 to 4
3
year.
yeah.
If
There
it's
was a time
series.
when it was every 2 years, but now let's make it every 3 years.
Yeah.
And I kind of hate that.
I wish it was every 2 if they're going to make a series, you know? Like every 2 I think is just about accurate.
Yeah. I really miss those days when like the Bond series could do that, and then they were the one. I mean, they started sliding too, and it's just yeah, blah blah blah, different series. Did you? So how do you think the miniatures compare in this one to some of the other Millennial ones? Just knocking the crap out of buildings and the fire effects. Because I think this one's a little bit of a mixed bag. Because they were just starting to figure out how to use the digital technology. I mean, not CG, but with like the compositing. Because there's like a shoreline shot where Godzilla's stomping his way towards there, and you can see like the military kind of scrambling in the foreground, but his tail's just laying over where the ocean should be.
Yeah. That's pretty bad. That's bad. Bad news over on that one. Yeah, some of the water compositing when he's coming in from the sea is not so great. But I don't know. It seems like all the buildings when he is destroying them in every Godzilla seem like they're all made out of the same type of material, where it's like styrofoam and balsa wood, you know? So I can't, there's nothing that stuck out that's like exceptionally bad or crazy good, you know? It usually always revolves around compositing or CG with these Japanese movies, you know?
Okay.
So yeah, that was not. But I will say, like, I think the Shin Godzilla really combined those two things perfectly. You know, of like CG, and like destroying buildings, because it's like they would. in that one, it's like they were using CG to augment things. And then, like, what I found really interesting, I was like, there were so many shots in Shin Godzilla where Shin Godzilla itself was CG, but it's like they made it to look like it was a guy in a suit. Like they animated it to look like there was still someone in the suit.
Okay.
Just, so it was like certain mannerisms and clunkiness were the same, even though they could have gotten rid of that if it was all CG,
I'm just picturing someone wearing that as a mocap suit, complete
Right.
with like the sumo like fat guy sort of belly, and just to get the motions right and the arms swinging. I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it past them. That would be the thing to do, because to try to fake that would be really difficult.
Right. Right. Um, but yeah, so there was but then it's like explosions were CG, but like the buildings being destroyed weren't. So it's like this really cool, like perfect
Like a
combination.
hybrid approach.
Yeah, and I think it really benefited it because it's like with Shin Godzilla, the shock and awe feeling that you get from the American movies of like shit getting destroyed is ever present in Shin Godzilla,
Okay.
So, but it's not this. Here's these models being destroyed, so you're kind of taken out of it. The interesting thing that I realized in how I go about watching these Japanese Godzilla movies to the American movies is that I have to meet the Godzilla movies at a certain point and kind of like have my mind be the imagination to carry the movie a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because it's so incredibly fake, right? Whereas like the American movies, it's like just watch this fucking eye candy for a second. Like here's this crazy shit. Like the fight sequence, the give and take fight sequence in Godzilla versus Kong, where it's like Godzilla, Kong, and Mecha Godzilla are having this like three-way fight, and all of the dust and crumbling is so incredible to look at. You don't have to imagine anything. You can just see it and being like, this is beautiful chaos and destruction. You don't have to work a little bit extra with the American Godzillas. Whereas, like, with the other ones, it's like, all right, I know what you're going to be. You're going to be a shoebox that's painted to look like a building, and Godzilla's going to step on it. And I have to imagine that that's a real building and not a shoebox. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring that up too, that there is a point where you have to meet these movies kind of halfway, and like, even though like I think the models are, pretty good, there is still kind of a handcrafted quality to it where you just know that they're not real buildings. And like even with some of the action scenes too, like when the one scientist was sliding down the elevator shaft, and they're showing how fast the building's exploding, and then he's like that guy is not escaping that explosion at all. Like he's just not.
No,
like he's not
he's dead.
falling
Yeah.
faster than that building's exploding. But we just have to kind of go along with that, and then they kind of intercut that with another sort of trope of I don't know if the other movies did that as much, where like the main group was just kind of like, there's always that one fucking rooftop where everyone can just see all of Tokyo and everything that's going on, and the main characters are just like on there commenting about what's going on, and like this movie definitely had that until Godzilla gets pissed off and comes over and kills the one like G-Man for some perceived slight, I don't know.
Right. If you had to stare down with a lizard that's 60 stories tall, do you think how long, or I guess how long would you last before you did a 180 and ran as fast as you could? Like, do you think you'd just stay there staring down Godzilla, or do you think you'd run away quickly?
That's a great question. I don't think he was wrong to stand there, because Godzilla is so massive that you're going to run down all those flights of stairs and get in your car and drive away, and the time that it takes him to turn around, like
Right.
That's not happening. So if my option is to certain death, or I guess I'm just gonna see how this ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like both of them are, valid interpretations or valid
Yeah, like
responses to that situation,
I
because
agree.
that, the
Because it's
people
like,
running away is just self-preservation, and then the other guy's just like, no, we're not getting
yeah.
away from this. Like,
Yeah, it's an uh it's interesting to look at it like that, because if you did run away, how far could you actually get if Godzilla wanted to destroy you? You'd probably just eat the whole building, right?
not
Like,
very.
I mean, even if you got inside the building's going to be eaten or tail whipped into dust, you know?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's like I saw this question on Reddit once where it's like, if you knew that an atomic explosion was happening in your city, you couldn't run away fast enough to get away from the blast. So it's like, do you try to run knowing that you wouldn't get away, or do you just stand there and watch? You know, like,
Just put a lawn
yeah,
chair on your roof and try and get the best view possible.
yeah. Roll one, you know, just all right.
I'm ready. I'm ready
Yeah.
for you.
Yep.
Let's have that foot now.
So yeah,
There was one
now,
line that had me in stitches. Like,
all right.
because this isn't a comedy. This is a pretty serious movie, and I
This
don't.
is a serious Godzilla movie.
Yeah, I wonder if it was like a lost in translation thing. I don't know. I watched the English dub because I don't want to watch a movie with subtitles. I'm sorry, I'm that guy. I want to, if I'm watching a
Get
movie
mad at
which is
him.
a visual medium, I want to be paying attention to the framing and the visuals. I will take that hit on the bad translation. I'm sorry, that's just the way I'm wired.
I'll protect you because I watch them with subtitles.
Okay.
So we're evening it out.
So the reporter has a line like after Godzilla's won and they realize that he's this defender and he just saved them from this mass extinction event. Why does he keep protecting us? Did they say that in the subtitles?
No, I don't remember.
Because this is what cracks me up, right? They're all watching him storm off after he, does his like stare down.
Yeah.
And, they realize what just happened. Why does he keep protecting us? Cut to Godzilla burning the fuck out of the city. Like, why does he keep protecting us?
He ain't really.
Just rampaging back
right?
to the ocean or wherever he's going. We don't know. We don't need to know. It's just, oh my god. Perfect. Just hilarious. And that's the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think the Godzilla movies can get away with being so unpredictable? With American franchises, or I guess not even that, but like English speaking franchises, there seems to be such focus on continuity. I think the only director that gets away with it right now is George Miller. Where it's just like, we're just gonna make a Mad Max movie. That kind of correlates to the other Mad Max movies that I made, but there's no like consistency with the character or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Godzilla can get away with it so easily, where no one's like, well, this happened in the other one, and that's no one ever said anything? I see myself hyper fixated on continuity. So is that just a cultural thing? Like, I don't expect these movies to have continuity, but with other series that I watch, I look for continuity mistakes. So is that a cultural difference?
Well, I think part of it is because Godzilla as a series was around before and it was around for a long time before the advent of home video, whereas we grew up with home video. And the Universal monster movies did not respect continuity of the previous movies at all, because like Frankenstein had, like, the castle had collapsed, and then the next movie they find him in a block of ice.
Right.
You know,
I don't know.
but people didn't have these movies to go like on the shelf where they could just pull a refresher. It was like, you saw that a year ago. You don't have, you know, like it's going to be fuzzy. We can play fast and loose with it. I think it's kind of a byproduct of Godzilla was around before that, and because of that, the series is just wild and crazy and different, and that's just baked into the DNA of it. And we don't have any of these series that are still running from a time where there is before home video.
Okay.
You know, so we reboot it, and then now you have to tailor that expectation to modern audiences, because they do have that. We do have the internet, our angry comment section, whatever.
I guess that's what I'm also getting at.
Our podcasts where we can talk about these things and keep these details fresh in our mind and keep that going forward. So it's not entirely cultural so much as a evolution
byproduct of technology.
Of technology, and the audience is getting more sophisticated.
Okay. Just because I notice I get very angry when, you know, certain things are introduced, themes, story elements, characters, what have you, in one movie, and then the sequel just doesn't mention them at all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So are Godzilla movies sequels to each other? Or are they all standalone movies except the American Godzilla movies?
Well, the Millennial series is definitely a sequel to each other, because Tokyo X Godzilla and Tokyo SOS move right into each other. So at least those are connected. But I feel like the series as a whole is connected, and then Final Wars is just out there.
Out there, you know, a lonely island of greatness. You know?
Yeah, we're just going to go so far into the future that you won't even know what hit you.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. Like, man, I was so looking forward to those super mutants flying around Godzilla. And
I think that's one of the things that makes it so effective, is because the director used so many tricks from so many horror movies to make this tiny thing really seem threatening. And it was very effective at that.
Yes.
I remember this movie being huge at the time. It was on the back of like this movie and Sleepwalkers. I don't think I've seen so many comic books that have a movie poster on the back of it. But this movie and Sleepwalkers, like,
they really hit
everywhere.
The comic book advertising hard.